Hey guys, just wanted to do my review of The Gifted, Season 1, Episode 5, Boxed In. So, continues right where Episode 4 left off. The Mutant Underground's on the run. We are treated to a flashback to June 15th of 2013, where Agent Turner is with his wife and daughter, playing in the park, and there's this mutant protest going on, and this is apparently this is the July 15th incident everyone who's referring to, in which the protest got violent. And I don't remember if it was mentioned in an episode or it was mentioned by I read it somewhere by the creators that Turner's daughter was killed in the crossfire in a battle that involved, the X-Men and the Brotherhood and the protesters, and that's why there's been such a schism between mutants and humans, and why using powers got outlawed. And I guess we understand more of his more of Turner's motivation in terms of wanting to hunt everybody down. Basically, Eclipse and Polaris split up in order to distract the drone. The Struckers and Thunderbird and Dreamer and everybody else is, and Trader, they're brought back to the Mutant Underground, but Reed's presence causes a lot of civil unrest. It's civil unrest because Fade, who was the mutant who has the ability to turn invisible and is working at that bar, who was part of the Sentinel Service's sting operation in Episode 3, he remembers, he still calls him out to the entire Mutant Underground about how he was responsible for how he's part of that sting operation, and now there are people who question, whether he should be there, and he has to confess to the rest of his family that he was involved in that, trying to save them. And meanwhile, you have this really intense scene in which Kate's trying to operate on Trader because of the fact that he has a gunshot wound and he's losing a lot of blood. So you have the son. I'm blanking on his name. Acting as a blood donor because he's basically owed. So while Andy's donating blood, Kate's trying to operate on Trader because he's trying to get he's trying to get the bullet out, but the thing is that when she has to cut open his stomach in order to get the bullet out, remove the bullet, it causes a lot of hemorrhaging, and she's afraid it hits an artery, and Lauren's able to use her powers to put pressure on the artery until Kate's able to sew him up. And I guess more mutants witness this going on, and they realize how much the family is a value to the team. Reed tries to atone for his actions by basically being part of an operation in which he offers his expertise as being an attorney, and I guess knowing police protocols and whatnot, and how they're actually speaking, and they're actually using codes for say petty theft or other crimes to actually hide their activities and search out surrounding areas or where the mutants might be, and they're setting up traffic. I guess they're scanning traffic activity and not setting up blockades, but just basically just trying to search the area based on their last location, since Eclipse and Polaris use their combined abilities to take out a drone that was following them. And the thing is that it's in a situation where Reed is forced to work with Fade, even though Fade doesn't trust him from Episode 3. But Thunderbird says that he's going to be he's still got to be evaluated. This got to work together and just basically get over his bias towards Reed. And so basically he just says that, Reed says, I'm a fugitive, so just act as bait to draw the Sentinel services away from the general area where the Mutant Underground is. And so he goes out in public back in his jail attire. And, Faye's supposed to drop him off in the street, and then he's supposed to be spotted by traffic cams and on a place called Elm Street. But Faye doesn't show up at the spot to pick him up. So Reed is like literally running from the cops, and it's not until, and just when you think like he's gonna get busted, he bumps into a car that was invisible by Fade, and he does let him back in. And he just says that he wanted to test if he was whose side he was really on, but it was still kind of like a dick. It was still thought it was just kind of like a dick move to like put him at risk like that. Like he mentioned. And he was kind of being an ass about it because he did like jump out of the van and confess to what he was doing and apologize for what he was doing. So that I figure that should be enough to know that I get he's being pissed, but it's like he did prove like even at that last second that he was on the level. So it's just like he could have just like gone through with it and he didn't. So I thought that was kind of petty. And there's also the subplot where even though Eclipse and Polaris take out the drone, they do drive into the van carrying Agent Turner and his agents, and Polaris eventually decides they should capture him and figure out and take him to a warehouse where he's try to interrogate him to figure out what happened to Pulse and how they were able to brainwash him. And they actually have this like back and forth in which Turner does tell them how his daughter was killed on the July 15th incident, which makes him come across as a little more sympathetic towards at least Eclipse anyway. But they decide to call in Blink and Dreamer so the latter could use their powers to figure out the location of Pulse and how they're able to brainwash him. And you can see him, and you see like flashes of all of like Turner's memories, but because they become surrounded by Sentinel services, who eventually tracks them down, and they're under attack from like I guess like tear gas and stuff. They're forced to flee, and you can see like Turner is in pain, having to relive all these memories, so you don't know like what's happening. And from Dreamer's Mist, if it's like erasing all of his memories or just like what's happening. But you see that Blink is witnessing what Dreamer's doing, and she starts to question whether or not that Dreamer implanted a false memory, and she admits to what she did in order to help the Struckers and Thunderbolts and Eclipse escape from the locals in episode 3. And she gets pissed about it and just says that Dreamer tries to apologize and says she can remove the memory, but Eclipse says, stay the hell away from me. I want nothing to do with you. And then I guess what's kind of sad is like you kind of realize how dangerous her powers can be if she abuses them. And because after Turner gets freed, he goes home to his wife and asks if he can talk her daughter in, and the wife becomes horrified when they realize that they messed with his memories, and because he doesn't remember the daughter being killed, and then he's like in a state of shock, and he's like breaks down crying when he has to be retold that his daughter was killed, and like relive that pain basically, just because I guess I remember her was being killed in that blast. So like I said, this show's been pretty solid. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say like what particular direction this show's going in, but other than the fact that the Struckers decide that even though they're all back together, they decide to stick with the Mutant Underground instead of like fleeing to Mexico and feel like they can help and be of use to the Mutant Underground. And I guess just based on the previews, there's going to be more conflict between like I guess Polaris training the Strucker kids and Caitlin feeling like they shouldn't be treated like soldiers, they're just kids, but it's just like she's committed to the cause, so they're going to have to fight. and especially since they want to fight for the cause. So, I mean, it's nice to know like not know where it's going. At the same time, I just know it's going to be like it's like a 10 episode run, and it kind of leaves me in suspense as to what the how it's all gonna everything's gonna come to a head. But anyway, guys, what do you think of the episode? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.